Good morning, good afternoon, good night, and welcome back to another episode of the Heart to Heart podcast. As always, I'm your host, Gregory Hart. Please don't forget to rate, review, subscribe on iTunes, subscribe on YouTube, and for all the updates for comedy, for podcast releases, upcoming guests, please check out the Instagram at Heart to Heart Podcast. Today, I'm joined by another comedian, one that I'm very excited to talk to, as got to see him live in action a couple weeks ago. Someone who takes a different spin on comedy and is very refreshing. This guy has his own podcast called The Extra Gravy Show. He's been on shows like Roast Battle Canada. He is funny as hell and has a voice like MJ. Please give it up for Big Norm Alkinsell. Norm, thank you so much for joining me, buddy. How's things
Yeah,
going, man? I'm super stoked to chat with you.
good, Greg. Good. I'm just here chilling, bro. Just hanging out here at home. Uh, can I say I was looking at you last night? I'm like, man, I would be mad if a guy like Kevin Hart, who didn't really have Hart as his last real name, took your name. You're the real Hart.
The real Hart. Yeah, and it was funny. I released obviously I'm not Kevin Hart, but a couple years ago, when I started this podcast, it was probably like 5 months in, and he came out with a not a podcast necessarily, but it was like a talk show with someone else, and it was Heart to Heart. It was just spelt backwards, like HART to HERT. I'm like, I don't know if this is a good thing or a bad thing. He's either bringing a lot of traction to the fucking name, or he's just taking all the traction. So who knows? But yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, it's definitely the name definitely got a lot more popular once Kevin started rolling with it. But anyway, how are things with you? Do you still live in your hometown? I want to go right back to the very beginning. You're obviously you're born and raised in Canada?
Yep. Born and raised in Scarborough, Ontario. Uh, Currently in Parkdale. But Scarborough, when people say, "Hey, where you from?" If you're from Toronto or anywhere within the GTA, normally you'll just say Toronto.
Yeah, yeah.
But me, I say Scarborough specifically because Scarborough was a big part of my upbringing and a
Yeah.
big part of who I am as far as my style and my delivery and my cadence. Everything about me is Scarborough.
And a lot
So
of people that you'll
that's
talk
right.
to around here and places that you'll go to do stand-up acts should know Scarborough, should know the six, should at least be able to attest to where you live and where you are in retrospect to downtown Toronto.
Yeah, it's the place where J. Cole wanted to play basketball for. It's the place where Drake wants to be from. It's it's the place where legends like Mike Myers, Jim Carrey, The Weeknd, Paul Bernardo, like just legends.
Legends. Knuckleheads.
I
Oh,
mean,
that's jokes. The
they're
J.
not
Cole
all
thing.
good legends, but unfortunately, Paul Bernardo though is a legend in his own
He'll
right.
definitely he'll definitely go down in history. That's for sure.
Mm-hmm,
So
mm-hmm.
where did this all start? Comedy come from a young age? You get this from your family, from your parents? Was one of your parents a comedian? Did something traumatic happen to you that caused you to dig into this dark hole of comedy?
I was trying to figure out who has the sense of humor, my mother or my father. I would say more my mother, but even still, she's a very soft-spoken person, but she's got a light heart. So I think that's where my comedy style comes from. But I always say funny was a form of survival. I grew up in the hood, and there was a lot of big dudes I was around, and in order for me to be around those circles, I needed to state my claim. So it was through uh, just being this loudmouth, funny guy barking in a room full of goons. And then I also had really, really good weed to sell. So those two things, uh, those two things kept me safe in the streets. Being a young Filipino teenager in the hood, I had to make people laugh to survive. Straight up, really and truly.
That's deep,
And
man.
when I
That's
say survive, like when I say survive, it's not like, oh, it was life or death. No, it's literally like socially, if I didn't make people laugh, I don't know how I would fit it.
That's fair. Comes very naturally to you then. Humor was always something that you resorted to as a comfort zone more than
Yeah,
anything else.
yeah, for sure.
I can relate with that. Definitely haven't been pursuing it as long as you have, but that's definitely it was the same. Like I had just talked to Casey Corbin. I had reached out to him too after your guys' show, and it was the same thing. Like talking to comedians is the most relatable aspect for me as well. I haven't been doing it at all. Like I've literally done one open mic night, but I loved it so much, and it's always been my. I've always wanted. Like, I was always the person who never stopped talking. Was the center of attention. All my only goal ever, regardless if I hurt someone's feelings or made someone uncomfortable, was always for the laugh. And it's nice to talk to people that I can relate to, which the same aspect of growing up, I was just always that like outspoken and trying to make every single person laugh their ass off so they couldn't focus on anything else kind of thing. So it's very relatable.
Yeah, there's nothing better than the high of making a room laugh. And even like, you know, when you can lighten tense situations and tense moments with laughter, to me that's magic. It's
Hell
a it's
yeah.
a magic trick. It's literally a spell you put people in. When they should be sad, you find a way to flip that sadness upside down, and they're
Yeah,
all of a sudden laughing at a funeral. You know what I mean?
it's true. Yeah, it's so true. Like going back to your upbringing and who was funnier, did your parents grow up here or are they from the Philippines?
I'm from the Philippines. They moved here in the late '70s, and I was born in the '80s baby,
Nice.
1983, and yeah, they're strict Seventh-day Adventists. You know what I mean? Very, very strict Christian immigrant parents. Um, then they divorced early. So, as much as they wanted to be strict with it, like, if you don't have both parents around, it's easier for you to get away with shit and
Yeah.
get away with
One
dirt, so to
person
say.
doesn't allow it, the other parent might.
Right, right. So
Yeah.
now, living with my mother, she was always working, trying to like make sure we were good. Meanwhile, I'm on this on the streets running amok with the homies, you know. But no, my mother was also black belt Sphinx
Oh
karate
shit.
master.
She beat your ass.
I mean, she wouldn't beat me. She, like I said, she was a softie. But if you messed with her, she knows moves that can hurt you with one strike. Like I remember this girl butted in line when I was like 6 years old at the Center Island in Toronto. We were at the Center Island Fair, and this lady just butted everybody. Just decided to stop right in front of my mother, almost as if like, oh, this little Asian lady and her three kids isn't gonna like say nothing to me. So my mom's like
Fuck.
tapping her on the shoulder, like, excuse me, miss, like you cannot do that. That's not right. And the girl goes to grab her finger, and she's like, fuck off, whatever. My mom's like, hey, I'm not trying to fight. I just don't want you to butt like this. And she just kept on tapping her like this. The girl turns around and grabs the finger again and twists it. My mom's reflex just pulled back, and then this one ridge hand strike. Call it the
No
ridge hand
way.
strike, and it cups your throat. So just did the one ridge hand strike to her throat. This girl was at least 5'10", fell to the ground, just choking. I'm like, yo, my mom's the best. A little 4'11" Filipino woman just striking you in your fucking throat. It was nice. It was a nice little sight to see. But
That's
as my
fucking
parents.
badass.
Yeah.
That's
My
that's
dad, he
sick.
was just a farmer boy. But yeah, man, it was a farmer boy that was afraid of roller coasters and a little mountain girl that could kick your ass with one strike. You know.
Do you have any bits about your mom fucking karate chopping people in the throat?
I no, but now I might. Now I
That
might.
is funny as hell, dude. If my mom's a little nutcracker too. Like my mom's little, and she's not one to fuck with either. It almost seems like the smaller they are, the more they're just like in depth with their strength and maneuvers of being that low to the ground. But I wouldn't fuck with her either, and that is so funny, man. Like if I was in line, I would have been like, "Oh shit,
Yeah,
drop that
man.
bitch!" Like
She
everyone behind them just like
fell.
applauding, like this bitch cut all of us. Oh,
She
that's
made us jump the fence and run away.
gotta go.
She's like, "Go, guys, go on, go, 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 go." I'm like, "Wow,
And you're
mom,
on
hit and
Center
run."
Island. Like we gotta wait for a ferry. Like we're not just a quick getaway. We're not swimming across Lake Ontario. Oh,
uh,
that's funny. Fuck. So where to go from there? Like you obviously you said your parents split up. You're living with your mom. Where'd you go to school? You in Scarborough there?
I grew up. I went to school in Scarborough. I went to a high school called R.H. King. Um, and I was one of maybe like six Filipino kids in the school. The other three were my cousins and my sister, and
Shit.
it was I kind of liked it because normally the Filipino kids would go to was a Catholic school, but because I was Seventh Day Adventist, I went to a public school with a uniform for some weird reason.
Shit.
Um, and then And then in my last year in high school, I decided, you know what? I'm gonna pursue my mother's dream. She had dreams of me becoming a pastor, and I went to the Seventh Day Adventist Christian boarding school. I was offered a scholarship for theology because I was
Whoa.
also a choir boy. I was 1 foot in the church, 1 foot in the streets. Okay.
Shit.
So they were like, Norm, you're such a captivating dude on stage. Whenever you do your little youth sermonettes, you sing in the choir. You're this perfect candidate to lead, the congregation to the promised land. So they were about to give me this scholarship for theology at any Seventh Day Adventist university or college in the world. But the prerequisite was to graduate from a Seventh Day Adventist high school. So I went for the last year, my last semester, sorry, in high school. And I didn't realize it was so expensive just to go to that boarding school. It was like 10 G's to go to that school. My parents started fighting over who had to pay for tuition, and they hadn't talked in years.
Yeah.
And then, like, you know what? Don't
That's
worry
tough.
about it. I'll take matters into my own hands. And I started selling drug. Like, I left Scarborough and all that shit behind so I could stop selling drugs and doing all this shit and become a better person. But I ended up doing it at the school so that I could make money to pay for my tuition. Okay.
To become a
And it's
pastor?
funny to become a pastor, selling drugs to become a pastor. Um, and it's crazy too because like there's two and a
Holy
I
fuck.
think there's 300 students in the school. It's very small, and I thought I would be getting away from bad influences by going to the school because I figured, it's a bunch of goody two shoes in this Christian boarding school. But apparently, it's where all these rich Seventh Day Adventist foreigners would send their children for
Hmm.
being bad.
Oh.
So like there's kids from everywhere, Japan, Brazil, Jamaica, Trinidad,
What?
Dominican Republic, that were sent to the school because they were just little bad breeds. And their parents like, we're gonna send you to Kingsway Collegiate so that you can straighten up. And so I get there and they're like, hey man, we noticed you leave every weekend. Because I had family that lived in Whitby, and this was in Oshawa.
Yeah, yeah.
And on the weekends, you're allowed to leave the school compound. And so I would leave every weekend. And when I'd leave, people would ask, hey, man, you're leaving. Can you bring some things back? Can you bring some things? I'm like, nah, man, I'm leaving. I've left that world behind, man. I'm not bringing none of that stuff in. I'm trying to become a pastor, yo. And then After my parents got in that fight, I'm like, all right, what do y'all need, man? What do
Yeah.
y'all need?
Well,
Let's get it.
let's make
So I
some
was working
money.
in the cafeteria. I was a cook in the cafeteria. I was cutting hair. I was selling weed, and I was also selling bootleg porn memberships. Like my friend, I was the only one that had like a computer, and my cousin would like hook me up with these little CDs that had clips of little porn clips from back in the days. And this guy walked in on me and my homie watching porn, just like chilling, just watching some porn. We're like, yeah, check this chick out. And this is 99. So to have 1999 to have like to have porn on your computer without internet was like,
Yeah.
what? How did you get this? So this guy walks in. He's like, yo, can I see this? Can I watch? And my buddy jokingly, he's like, nah, man, get your own subscription. I paid for mine. This is my hour. I still have 15 minutes left. And the guy's like, how much for an hour? And I'm like, oh, it's a subscription. It's like subscription, like how much? Like, yeah, it's a $50 subscription. If you want the membership, it's throwing the $50 one time every month, and you're good. I only lasted in the school for 2 months, so I really only made money for the 1 month. But I made some money off some people who wanted to watch porn in the dormitory. And
Fucking incredible.
I could have got away with everything too, but I'm just such a good Christian boy that I
Yeah.
confessed. And I
Actually?
told, yeah, I told. Well, really true. I got into a big fight with my dad, and I smashed some windows, and I cut some of my tendons in my fingers. And the pastor came running down. He's like, "What's going on, Norm? Why are you doing this?" And I'm like, "It's because I'm selling drugs, so I can become you." And then he's like, "No," I said, "I'm selling drugs to your daughter, so I can become you." I was literally selling drugs to his teenage daughter in the high
Oh
school.
my God.
It was quite the scene, I'll tell you
Yo, why have you not written a fucking book? Like, I'm
that.
talking to you for 15 minutes, and it's like, yeah, Matt, parents came from the Philippines, got divorced. I would try to become a minister, selling drugs and porn subscriptions. And you're like, I was only 2 months into school. I'm like, what the fuck else happened? So where did you
uh,
go from here? Like, where did you said you're only 2 months in? You told the pastor that. Obviously, at that point, were you kicked out of the school, or you decided to leave the school?
it's so funny. We had just got back from this like choir tour that traveled along the Bible Belt. I'm out here singing songs and hymns with the choir. Meanwhile, you know, checking back, selling sacks, dime sacks in the back. But no, I after I got kicked out of school, it's funny that same pastor, they didn't kick me out actually. They're like, you did the right thing by confessing, but we still can't allow you to be here. We do not want to kick you out or expel you, but we will if we have to. Or you could just gracefully bow out and just leave the school quietly.
Wow.
And so I just left.
Did you tell
And
him you could get him a subscription to porn?
and then I got sent to the Philippines. Yeah, I think this is 2001 actually. This is the year of 9/11. This is just before 9/11.
You went back home, or you went back to your parents' home country?
Yeah, my dad was like, "All right, I'm gonna send you the money I was gonna use to help pay for tuition. I'm gonna use to send you to the Philippines. I want you to meet the motherland, meet your cousins. They live in really, really humble settings. Literally like shanty huts in the provinces. If I wanted to take a bath, I would have to fetch a pail of water and in a well. And if there was not enough water, you just have to wait for rainfall. Like
How long were you there?
I was there for almost 2 months. I was I was slaughtering chickens, slaughtering goats, freaking
What island were you
slaughtering.
on in the Philippines?
This place called Ilocos. It's like in the northern. It's the southern part of the northern area in the Philippines. where they speak the Ilocano language. Um, but yeah, that's where my father's from. So I went up there, and I just remember it was a crazy experience because people
That's humbling.
want to eat chicken. They go and buy chicken. They go to Popeyes and they buy a chicken sandwich. They go to KFC. They holler at the Colonel. When my cousins ask me for chicken, like you want chicken? I'm like, yeah. They're like, okay, pick. And I'll like pick. And then there's chicken. There's like a chicken coop at the bottom of the hut, and it's just like, yeah, which chicken do you want? I'm like, damn, I get fresh chicken. They'll chop off the head right in front of you. Sometimes they'll make a game out of it. If there's like multiple people eating chickens and there's more than one to feed, like let's say they cut up 3 chickens, what they'll do is they'll sit us. So this is what my cousins did. We had like 6 chickens.
Yeah.
We brought to this boating island, and they drew a line in the sand. And my cousin's like, Norm, which chicken do you want? And I chose the chicken, and they put out his hand as if like asking for money. So I gave him $20 Canadian. He starts laughing like, "Are you kidding me? Like this is way too much." But he's like, "Okay." He drops he starts collecting money from all the other cousins. I'm like, "All right," and 6 of them all at the same time take the chickens to that line they drew in the sand, and they cut their heads off simultaneously. So on the count of 3, 1, 2, 3, cut. And then they start like going, like the guy holding the money. I'm like, wait, what's happening here? Why are they screaming like they're at a cockfight? You know what I mean? Like, and they placed wagers, like they placed a bet. And I realized I didn't pay for the chicken. I placed a $20 bet on a chicken to last longest in aftershock after its head got cut off.
Oh,
So basically,
shit.
the chickens start running around, and whichever chicken is moving the longest, the last one to stay moving wins. So after a certain point, the chicken stops moving. It's just like, So mine was second last, right? Mine dies second. Me and my cousin are like, oh, going crazy. Like, oh shit, ours too. Our two are shaking the most, and then mine stopped shaking, and his one, and everyone's like, all right, cool. They start collecting the chickens, and as they're about to pick mine up, my chicken just this one more, like one last twitch, and they're like, oh no, Norm's chicken wins. It lasted the longest, like it had the last movement. So it's basically
So
the last chicken
crazy.
to move is the winning chicken in aftershock.
Oh my
So
God, that's hilarious.
it was pretty crazy. It made killing. It was weird. It made killing the chicken kind of fun. It was like, yo, I want to kill another chicken. Let's place another bet.
Four
It's
more.
not even for. It's not even for food at this point. So
Wow, that's crazy. Like for your dad to tell you, like send you to the Philippines to see where he grew up and all the stuff that he had to go through and going through that experience. How much did that change who you are now? Like obviously 2 months isn't a crazy amount of time, but it probably felt like a lot longer being there.
bro, I killed the goat, man. I killed the fucking goat, stabbed it through its throat, and that's not even the rhyme. Okay, listen, my cousins were fucking with me. They played a trick on me. They're like, okay, Ading, you want to slaughter the goat? I'm like, okay, I'm ready. I could do this. I ain't no North American pansy. Like I could do it. I could do it like my ancestors can. Let me just kill the goat. I'm ready. I'm gonna do it like they do it in the motherland. So they hyper extend the goat's legs backwards. So the goat's down, they hyper extend it backwards, pretty much break their legs out of the socket, tie the legs together onto a rope, string it over a branch, pull it up so like the goat's basically hanging neck down, just right. And it's basically so all the blood rushes down. Okay, gravity pulls the blood down, and they're like, okay, Ading Norman. Ading means younger child. Like Ading, you poke it in the jugular, okay, right here in the jugular, and I'm like, okay. they gave me this knife, and I'm like, yo, why does this look like a little? This looks like a letter opener. Like this ain't sharp. The fuck? What am I supposed to do with this? It's like, okay, right there. So I go to stab it with all my might, bro. It doesn't go. It just knocks it in its neck. It's like I poked it with a hard stick, and then now it's like, like its mouth is black, like blood is bleeding out its tongue. Like, I'm like, and they're looking at me laughing, like, how we're gonna traumatize this kid. I go for a second one, it doesn't pierce. I'm like, fuck this. I was getting mad because everybody's laughing at me like I couldn't do it. So with all my might, I just pulled back and fucking shoved that dull ass knife through its jugular, and everybody starts screaming, laughing, clapping. Then my cousin comes to me after. He's like, "Man, this village loves you so much. You made them laugh." I'm like, "Why?" I'm like, because we gave you a dull knife just because we thought you'd be scared to do it, and like, we give you a dull knife to just like fuck with you. It's not the knife we use to kill goats, but here you are actually piercing the goat's throat with this dull ass butter knife. You're good in our books. And I was like, sick.
Bro,
But at the
my,
same
my...
time, I'm like, you guys are fucked up, man.
that fucking story is so funny. Dude, my pasty white ass would go up and try and like fucking slice it. Like I've hunted deer before, but you hunt with a fucking sharp knife. Like I've gutted a
Yeah.
deer. I fucking would walk up and try it. Like they would laugh at me for fucking hours before I fucking stab it as hard as I can in the throat. Oh my god, that's fucking incredible. What other animals did you kill while in the Philippines?
Pig. I killed slaughtered some pork. That
Man,
one
we
was
are
the
so
toughest
pussy
one.
here.
That one was the toughest one because pig's eyes are look very human.
Okay.
And then and my job was to hold its head up because
Yeah.
they slit its throat,
Yeah, yeah.
and then they catch the blood to make blood pudding. And then so like you gotta hold its neck up because if it's like moving around like crazy, the blood's spewing everywhere. So you literally have to get the thing in a headlock and hold its neck up like you're giving it a guillotine almost.
Jesus.
And then you're holding this fucking pig, and it's human eyes are just looking at you through its peripherals, like,
Oh my
and then
god.
you
What
hear
did
it
you
gurgling.
what did you say they make with the blood?
Blood pudding. It's called diniguan.
Did you
It's
try it?
like, yeah, yeah. It's very irony. It's like, well, not blood pudding. It's like a pork blood stew.
Have
So
you
they
ever
use it as the base of their sauce.
have you ever eaten like that? It's like a fucking egg and it's got like a half it's got like a chicken in
It's a
it.
it's a duck embryo. It's a premature duck embryo called balot.
Balot. Have you
Yeah,
tried that?
I did. I have. And I was. It wasn't bad, but I was just off put by what it was. When I felt the crunch, I'm like, oh, that's the beak. But it was just like boiled eggs with a little bit of texture.
Dude, we are so fucking soft here, dude. I listened to a podcast called Bad Friends with Bobby Lee, and he's dating a girl named or was a girl named Kalila from the Philippines. Anyway, it doesn't matter. If you ever seen the
She's
podcast,
so hot. She's so hot, by the
she
way.
really is. And her niece, Rudy, is on Bad Friends, and they brought that fucking egg in for Bobby Lee and Andrew to try it. And Bobby Lee makes such a good point. He's like, the thing with ethnic girls or Asian women or men in general is they'll try a food, then ask you what it is. White fucking people will immediately ask you what it is and will definitely not fucking try it. If it as soon as it doesn't look appetizing, they're fucking out. It could be the best tasting thing in the world. If it doesn't look like something we saw in a magazine or on a pamphlet, we ain't eating that shit.
Yeah, yeah. But then at the same time, you guys will eat the most bland potato soup or like like
Yeah,
I
we're
ain't eating
okay
that
with
shit, but
no
let me
flavor.
have this dirty porridge.
Yeah. Yeah, we're okay with absolutely zero flavor as long as we know exactly where it is.
Yeah.
Oh fuck. So you fucking bet chickens, you fucking stab a goat, you make fucking pudding out of a pig. Like how much did this experience mean to you? Like how much did it change you like coming back? Have you been back to the Philippines since?
I've been back many a times. Like that time I went by myself. I was a 17-year-old kid with
Shit.
braids, with cornrows, landing in the Philippines with Timberlands on. Hold on one second. Sorry, I was getting a call from Ron Jostle.
It's all right.
Oh, gee. Anyways, no. So where was I? Where was I?
You were flying in cornrows, Timberlands.
Yeah, I had cornrows, Timberlands. Thought I was this little Scarborough thug claiming Wu Tang as I land in the Philippines, and everyone's looking at me going, "Spree well, hey, son, hey, son." They're just calling me, the two references they have to a guy with braids, and everywhere in the Philippines they would call me Norman Black because they thought I was a black guy, um,
Wow.
and because I had braids, and I was like, what am I doing? Why am I like acting like people care for these braids and care for the shit that I care for in North America? And I just took out the braids and I became one with the Philippines. I became like I stripped myself of all the things that I thought was cool in North America and that didn't matter in the Philippines. And then I was just this long haired, flowing dude in the Philippines hanging out in the jungle or in the provinces. Like we would lie down underneath these trees for hours while my nieces and nephews would just pluck my chin hairs with tweezers. It was like reverse acupuncture. It felt so relaxing. They would take pieces of my hair, twist it up, and then stick it in your ear and like twist the hair in your ear, and it would tickle your ear in this crazy sensation. And I was like, oh, these are the little things that they do in the village just to like pass the time, and like this is the life. I loved it. I couldn't wait to leave, but I also couldn't wait to do more. it
See,
was it
like
was very interesting.
I don't really have like a it sounds like it'd be a very humbling experience, especially knowing that your parents grew up there and what they did to get from the Philippines to Canada and stuff like that. Like it would definitely be huge for you. The only thing I can relate it to, which is so ridiculous, but I only started traveling and then fucking COVID hit. I finally started getting out of the country, but I went to Cuba, and this sounds ridiculous, but coming from growing up my whole life in Canada, my parents grew up in Canada, how fucking entitled and selfish and just fucking shitty like middle-aged adult I was. And going to Cuba with like the only thing I ever got told, it was the first place I had ever traveled to. But families and relatives would be like, just take some stuff that you don't need anymore, like hats, and buy some like coloring books and like deodorants and stuff like that for the people there. They appreciate that so much more than they care about your tip. It all gets funneled and distributed to everything anyway. So I was like, okay, no worries. So like I pack half my bag full of like crayons and like bobby pins and ponytails and coloring books and all this shit. And like just like showing up to this island surrounded by all these fucking people that are sitting on a beach, still watching couples get into arguments and yell at their fucking kids and stuff still isn't perfect when they're halfway across the world in this beautiful fucking country surrounded by the nicest fucking people I've ever met. And like this coloring book from our Dollarama means so much to this housekeeper who's going to give it to her kids, and these and like a stack of hats. Like I had worn them a couple times, brought a couple new hats, gave them to people that worked there, and they fucking wore it all week. Like it was just like fucking eye opening in such a slow scale, but it was so eye opening to how fucking good we had it. And it was like my only way to relate to what you went through going back to the Philippines was just like realizing how fucking crazy good we have it. Yet we are such fucking whiners in North America.
No, they had way less than me, but had way more happiness than I ever did.
Hell yeah.
And I couldn't believe it. It was one thing I learned where like you could have everything in the world, you could have all the privileges, but if you don't have that inner happiness, how wealthy are you? You know what I mean?
100%, dude.
And from
100%.
that point on, like I knew I would, as long as I could be happy in here, I
Yeah.
could be happy everywhere. And I'm generally a very very positive dude, very very optimistic. I see the light in everything. I feel like that's a lot where my comedy comes from, you
Yeah.
know. And you know, I was just telling a story to my buddy the other day how like, so I went to jail in Taiwan for
Shit.
yeah, they found some weed in my pocket on route to the Philippines this one year, and it was just some crumblet. It was small little crumbs, lint, pocket hair, all
Wait,
this
fuck
shit.
for real?
But it was enough for the dogs to sniff out my pants. Yeah, and then they're like, yeah, I'm like 0.011. Like this is nothing, guys. It's not even a bowl. Come on, give me a break. I just came from the cannabis cup in Jamaica. I'm a marijuana patient, like medical marijuana patient. I got my papers. I work within the industry. I work in dispensaries. Like this is what I do. I work with weed. And they were like, "We're charging you with possession." But then when they heard me saying I work with weed, they're like, "And we're charging you with trafficking." I'm like, "No, no, you mistranslated what I'm saying. I work with weed legally, and no." So they hit me with trafficking, and they hit me with possession, and then they proceeded to send me to jail, where I had to spend it for a night. Um, for
That's fucked.
long story short, um, I wasn't in jail for too long. There was like a discrepancy. There was no more room in the jail before they were about to put me in. So they were literally at capacity. Like the last three
Wow.
guys that were gonna put into the jail, they're like, yeah, we actually don't have room for you. So can you find a place to stay until your trial? I'm like, all right, cool. But they're like, yeah, but you can't leave the country until your trial's dealt with. So Taiwan was my prison. I wasn't even in prison cell. But when they finally dealt with my case, I got charged with just possession. They took out the trafficking, and they gave me 93 months. They gave me 90 days in jail. Um, but if you have a sentence that's under 6 months, you have the option to pay $50 American per day to get out of jail. So that was 90 days times 50. I had to pay 4,500 American to get out of jail. But I had to spend 1.5 days in jail, and I remember sitting there in the time when he's jail cell, where you're not allowed to talk. They have 15 people per cell. You're not allowed to talk to anybody and have jokes. You can't be laughing. Can't be working out. You can't sleep unless it's sleep time. All you could do is pee, chill, watch HBO on their television, and that's it. I remember
What
this
the
dude,
fuck?
this African dude walks in, and this is when I knew I'm good anywhere I go. This African dude walks in. He's looking out around at all these Asian men sitting down. He's like, oh my god! I could tell he's so disgruntled. Like he's just scared, disheveled, just oh my god. I'm like, go, and I told him to sit beside me, but I'm like, talking this like Mandarin gibberish that
Yeah.
I'm making up. I'm like, and he's like, I don't understand. I only speak English. And I was like, I'll fuck with you, bro, man. I speak English. I'm like, what you want for, bro? What you want for? He's like, oh, I overstayed my visa. My family's going to disown me. He's freaking out. Meanwhile, I'm sitting there cracking jokes like I'm that's when I knew
Give a
I'm good.
fuck.
I'm
Yeah.
good everywhere I go. It's my first day in jail. I'm already trying to crack jokes with people. Like, I think I'm fine. I'll find
Bro,
a way
that
to
is
survive and be happy
fucked.
anywhere I go.
That is crazy, dude. I would have shit my pants.
I was ready to go away for 10 years, bro. I thought that was it. I already had it set in my mind. All right, you're gone for 10 years minimum. You're gonna be chilling here. I remember when they were like, when you had to strip naked and get showered down. Then they dry you up, and you're supposed to get a cavity check. You're supposed to squat and cough until to see if any drugs come out your asshole. And the dude that was inspecting kept on being like, "Squat lower, okay, cough harder, 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 cough." And I'm like, I'm coughing as hard as I can. I'm just picturing my asshole lips just like puckering super further and further every time I cough harder, and my asshole looks like. And I'm just picturing the Asian guy looking up at my asshole, and I look down. He had his mask on, he had his gloves on, but that's it. He had no glasses on. I'm like, bro, I am coughing and like sending ass particles straight towards your eyes. I'm like,
Guy
who
said
has it
pink eye
worse?
9 times.
You know what I'm saying? Who has it worse? Me going to jail for possibly 10 years, or this guy who's got the job where he's got to look at asses all day, probably got pink eye 9 times a week, like you said, you know what I mean? Like, that's how
Dude,
I
that is
knew. Again,
fucked.
I'm
I
gonna
would
be good in jail wherever I go. If I feel my life is better in jail than this guy checking asses,
yeah.
you know what I'm
Yes,
saying?
checker. Yeah, who the fuck signed up for this? That dude, do you have to fly into Taiwan to get to the Philippines? That might sound so dumb to you, but
No, I chose Taiwan because it was cheaper to fly into Taiwan than flying to the Philippines. It's like flying into Vegas and then flying into Cali is cheaper than flying straight into Cali.
that's fucked.
Yeah,
Dude, that's a mind-blowing story.
yeah.
I would have
I ended up stuck.
fucking
It was supposed to be a 2 day layover. I was there for 7 months.
that's a short stay. So did you
Yeah.
pay the $4,500 or you stayed in jail for 90 days?
No, I paid 4,500. It's funny because they didn't sentence me until like 7 months later. Like my shit got lost in limbo. So I was sitting there twiddling my thumbs, waiting for 7 months for them to deal with my case. But I was just sitting there waiting. Apparently, they
Dude, that's
lost my piss
fucked.
sample. Yeah, they found that piss sample the night before they booked me, bro. I did Molly, I did shrooms, I had weed. So my piss sample would have threw me in jail for 10 years minimum, right? And that's why I was like, at least 10 years. But they lost my piss sample,
What the fuck is going on with the rules in Taiwan? Getting 10 years for that shit?
bro. It's a
Communist?
weed is a type 2 drug up there with cocaine and opium. So
That's fucked.
it's stupid, but now they're trying to legalize it in Taiwan. So I was a trailblazer.
Imagine being in jail for 15 years when it becomes legalized. Oh,
Trust me, bro.
God, bro, that's brutal. Sorry, get back to comedy here. I wanted to hear some of us a little bit about how you got brought up into comedy and how obviously we talked about how you kind of came up on your own with trying to like fit in and find your place in school. But what is your biggest goal when it comes to comedy? Is it a Netflix special? Is it to be able to travel? Like what's your biggest goal when it comes to being a stand-up?
Originally, it was travel. I wanted
Yeah.
to travel. It was a job that I know you can go anywhere in the world with. You can
Yep.
go on the road with it. Um, Netflix special, all that. I've pictured those things and I've envisioned those things. I've written them down, having my own special, having releasing an album,
Yeah.
all these things that a wide-eyed young comedian can think of. I'm 10 years in, and I still have those dreams and aspirations. I'm still the wide-eyed kid that wants to do it. I started pretty late. I started comedy 29, so um, and
You're
that's not
39.
even that. I know people that started comedy even later.
Bro, you're 39. Oh, I might have lost you. Oh, there you are.
There we go. I'm back.
Dude, I said it 9 times. I couldn't tell if you were frozen. Are you 39?
I'm 39. Yeah.
Holy shit. What do you use on your skin?
Hey man, like I said, I always say black don't if black don't crack, well guess what? Flip don't chip. Okay.
Dude, that's crazy, bro. I thought for sure you were in your 20s, not turning 40.
Turning 40, bro.
Shit.
Soon.
Dude,
I'm the Asian Benjamin Button, man.
dude, all I can think about when you say that, like you're 10 years and like starting late, like you remind me of Segura. Like, I don't know if how many comedians you watch, but Segura is my
I
favorite
love
comedian of
cigar.
all time. And him and Bert didn't start till their later 20s, and they're fucking fifth. Bert's 50. He's only been decently big for the past, I don't know, 5 years, like bigger scale. Obviously, he had like the Travel Channel and shit like that, but like, bro, every person I've ever talked to about comedy is like 10 years. 10 years is where shit starts to hit.
10 years is the time. Yeah, man. I feel like I had imposter syndrome for 9 years. Even after JFL and even after all these things, I still had imposter syndrome. Just after
Thinking
this
you
year,
weren't a
I'm like,
comedian or
you know,
what?
I think, yeah, I didn't feel like I was doing the work that a comedian should be doing to be considered a comedian, you know? And then I realized there's no singular path of what a comedian should do.
Hell
There's
no.
there's a lot of milestones that you can check off, but how you get to those points, whether it's like, oh, like some people you like, when you have quests in Fortnite, like
Yeah,
one of the
yeah.
quests would be like perform at Comedy Store, perform at Yuck Yucks, be a signed comic to a comedy franchise, release of a DVD special or whatever. You'll have all these
Yeah, yeah.
different goals, and I have all those things, but I was feeling like I wasn't getting to those things enough to feel like I was truly a comedian. When I got Just for Laughs and recorded my first TV taping for Kevin Hart's LOL network. He
Sure.
was going through. He was specifically asking JFL to provide ethnic comics for that. So I was kind of like I checked off a box. So even that I didn't feel like I deserved because there's just not that many ethnic people in the comedy scene. There are in Toronto, but like at the time, they just looked into the Nubian Night, Kenny Robinson's comedy show that he does on the last Sunday of every month. It's the longest standing show in Canada. And it was the ethnic show, it was the Nubian Night. And they were looking, like I said, specifically for ethnic comedians. So I feel like I only got that gig because of that, because, I checked off a box. So
Man, fuck
I,
that.
I
But
don't,
that's the imposter syndrome, right? Like
that's how I felt at the time.
that's fair.
But in the past year and change, it was through pandemic when I was still continuing to work and do shows in the pandemic. When people couldn't find shows, me and my boy Natish Sakuja, we would show hunt and we would go around provinces looking for shows, hidden shows, and like still continue to perform despite everything on lockdown. And that's when I felt like, okay, no, you're doing it, bro. You I'm really fighting to do this.
Oh
And
yeah.
then the past year, it's been like, you know what? I got JFL Roast Battles Canada. I did that taping for CTV Crave, and even that for a second, I thought they needed a replacement, and I just so happened to be recommended by a friend that was doing it, and if it wasn't for that recommendation, I wouldn't have gotten the look. So parts of me was like, oh, you didn't get it. You just got it because so and so referred you. But then if obviously so and so thinks I'm good enough to be referred, so maybe I am doing something well. And that's when I started to feel like, yeah, man, you're a comedian. You got this. You do the work. You can't
Dude,
discredit yourself anymore.
I gotta say, honestly, like seeing your act was refreshing in the aspect of like it wasn't like the standard here's a joke, here's a lead up, go. Here's a joke, here's a lead up, go. Like the way that you incorporated musicians and singing and like it was entertaining, dude. Like it wasn't like I was just sitting there always waiting for the punchline. I wasn't sitting there waiting for the fucking something over the top or offensive or rude or whatever the hell would make me laugh. It was like me watching you do your own thing, like dance around, move your feet smooth as fuck. Like your voice was incredible. Like it was interactive, bro. I was sitting there the entire time, like watching you fucking sneak around and slither around. I was like, it was entertaining through and through. And then laugh, 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 laugh. But the entire time I was in it. I wasn't thinking like, when is this person going to end? Or where is he going with this? Or what is like, what? I don't understand where his premise is here. Like thinking of it like a joke writing. It was just entertaining, bro. It was fucking awesome.
Thank you, man. Thank you, bro. I take a lot from Jamie Foxx. When I
Nice.
heard Jamie Foxx's special and he was playing the piano and singing his heart out, I heard girls screaming, I heard dudes laughing. I'm like, yo, this guy is so smooth. If I can make people laugh through song, amazing. I wanted to be an R&B singer when I was younger. And when I was like, man, the world's not ready for an R&B singer, I figured, hey, if I can incorporate singing into comedy, maybe that's my back door. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Fuck, dude.
So
It works.
that's where I still, and I'm the most unassuming dude. You look at me like, oh, look at this little Filipino Asian guy, Scarborough, and all of a sudden, bow! I hit you with that golden voice. Like, where did that come from? It's my little trick up the sleeve, right? Uh,
Oh,
for a
fuck,
while,
dude. That's funny.
early in my career, I was discouraged, and someone told me not to perform, not to sing, and to stick to jokes, and I was crushed because it was like somebody of value, of like stature, so they had merit in what they were saying. I took it a bit too literal and to heart, so I didn't sing for years in comedy. And then then someone was like, "Why don't you sing within your comedy, bro?" I did this one bit where I just had to sing something out to like explain. I'm like,
Yeah,
there's
yeah.
something, and they're like, yo, your voice is sick. You got to do that more often. I remember I sang the American national anthem, with all the soul, and I used it as a closer because it was my first headlining gig, and they're like, yeah, you got 30 minutes, and I'm like, shit, I only have like 22 minutes at that. Maybe I could stretch it out with a really long song at the end. And that's when I sang. I made the premise. I'm like, yeah, African Americans, when they sing the Star Spangled Banner, they'll stretch that song out to like 28 minutes. It's longer than the sporting event itself. And I'm like, man, this is my favorite thing to sing. I sing it in the shower every morning. So I would like to share with you my rendition of the Star Spangled Banner, sung in the key of African American soul. And then I sing 3 minutes, 4 minutes. It's like I can stretch that shit out long if I really want to. I do it for like 3 minutes, and it's very performative.
Yeah.
But it's one of it used to be my biggest dismount whenever I wanted to close out a show, because everyone's
It's
like, "Holy shit, that boy got a voice
it's
and he
fucking
funny
sick.
with it."
It's sick, dude. Like, and it brings you into like almost like a relatable state of your comedy show because you reference such big musicians and big songs. Like it starts, I'm sitting there and I'm like, oh, he's talking about like Bruno Mars, and I'm like clicking into my head and talking about like dealing. No one gives a fuck. Look at his like listen to his singing voice, like that kind of shit. And I'm just like it just helped relate to you, and it's fucking sick, dude. I would love to see an hour special someday. Big Norm singing his heart out. Like that would be. It's a fucking act, bro. It's a thing, man. Like I don't even know how to put it into words. It's awesome, dude. I really really liked it.
Do you watch Bo?
Sorry.
Do you watch Bo Burnham?
I've seen a little of it. Like a bunch of my buddies like always reference like this next song is "The World Is on Fire." Ah, that is all. And just like shit like that. Like I've seen a bit of it, but I haven't watched much of them.
Nah, he took it to the next level. Um, he's really really polished in his production and everything he does. But I love what he does. I would like to do
That's
something
sick.
similar, mixed with Jamie Foxx and add my
And Norm,
my
yeah.
Brutal Mars isms and my all the Jodeci and Drew Hill and Boys to Men that I grew up watching. Like
Yeah, bro.
that to me is that's a big part of my comedic style.
Well, bro, I gotta say, you're a unique dude. This is so far from what I was expecting. I didn't know what to expect other than laughs and crazy stories, and I definitely got that, bro. You're an interesting dude. You sure as fuck don't look 39. If I ever need help stabbing a goat with a dull fucking knife, I'm calling you. And I just gotta say, man, it was awesome to chat with you, man. I wish you nothing but the best. I can't wait till you're around me again. I can come see you live again. I'm excited to dive into comedy more, and I really thank you for coming on and having a heart to heart with me today.
Gregory, it's my pleasure, man. This was fun. I totally forgot about a lot of these stories, so you just helped me unearth a shitload of jokes.
Dude, they are fucking funny, dude. Even you like talking about your butt puckering and doing the fucking facial expressions from jail and like that kind of shit is fucking funny. And like that goat, like you like stabbed the goat the first time, and he's like, "Wah!" Like that shit is fucking funny, dude. Like that's good shit. And
Yo, for
where
real though, man. Just seeing a goat stick out its tongue, go,
while
wow,
fucking hanging upside down, like, oh fuck.
a
Where
heart.
if people want to find you, find some of your stand up, find your podcast, where's the best way for them to find you?
You can look at my link tree. Uh, it's I think Norm. I don't even remember. I'm terrible. You can go to my Instagram, Big Norm Show, and then link in bio is my link tree. I post most of my shows on there, my show dates. Um, you can listen to the podcast Extra Gravy Show.
It's good.
We got a monthly comedy show called the Extra Gravy Comedy Show at Comedy Bar, and yeah, man, I'll be in Cali in a couple of months, doing some
It's exciting.
shows in Sacramento and San Francisco, and so
Hell
yeah,
yeah,
man,
dude.
you guys are around in those areas, holla at your boy.
That's
Uh,
exciting, bro.
yeah,
That's
see
exciting,
me,
man.
and you can check me on season 2 of Rose Battles Canada on Crave.
Check them out on Crave, man, as seen on TV. I appreciate you, man. I appreciate you coming on here, Big Norm. It was a pleasure to meet you, and I truly wish you all the best in your comedy going forward.
Thanks, Greg. Take care, man.
Have a
Thank
good
you for
night, buddy.
this heart to heart.
Oh shit, we found our opener. Thanks, brother. I appreciate you.
No diggity, no doubt.
See you, boss.
Peace, man.